Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Sunday special. If you are new to these episodes or little segments that we do here on the channel, basically what I do is I go through some of the major currency pairs and markets that I keep an eye on in the currency market, and then talk about some potential trade setups for the week ahead. Now, before we get too far into this, I do want to say, if you're not already following our Telegram channel, we have a couple people who are running this kind of together as a team to share tons of analysis throughout the week. So if you're not already in the free Telegram, down below in the description, click that link and you can join us there. Without further ado, let's jump into it. If you would also like the video down below, I know you guys, a lot of you wait every week for the Sunday special, and if that's you, I really do appreciate the support. Make sure to leave a like down below, and I'll continue to do these as often as I can. I try and do them every Sunday unless there's something that goes on in the weekend, but for the most part, I've been pretty consistent with them. So let's go ahead and get into this, guys. We want to talk about EURUSD first, as we usually do, because euro dollar is at an interesting kind of crossroads. Now, we actually found a lot of support here at this upward trend line along the 1.2 level here. Let's actually get this full screen as well, and we can talk about this a little bit more. So euro dollar, for those of you guys who caught this, I did not catch this, and I wish I did because it's so beautiful in hindsight, as it always is, you know. But in hindsight, this was the perfect sort of pullback setup on the euro USD. You can see we found resistance up here, and price broke through there, which was pretty big for the euro dollar. But we finally came back and retested that last week, or maybe the end of the week before. But we found strong support, and all week we basically held and ran with it, which is really good for the euro dollar. It shows a lot of bullish strength. And I think that when we take a look at this on the lower time frames a little bit, we can really see kind of what ended up happening here. You can see that we were in this little counter trend. As I was talking about actually last week, was we were in this counter trend sort of situation for the euro dollar, and I had a pretty good opinion, or an opinion, that's what it was, that price would continue lower here. That we would see the breakout, and that price was likely going to try and break down to the 200 moving average. And I'll admit it, when it happens, I was wrong about that. That was not what ended up happening. We saw a strong rally by the euro dollar, and we broke through resistance pretty decisively. So I did have a short position at some point in here that ended up stopping out for a small loss. That's perfectly fine. That's what happens in trading. Not every trade is going to be a winner, but I remember that I thought this level right here was basically going to be a pretty good short setup. And now you can see there's no harm if you have no sort of ego. It's okay when you're wrong if you don't let it destroy you. The problem is when people say, oh, well, now it's going to come down. Oh, well, now it's going to come down. And they keep trying to fight the trend. And that is not what we do here on this channel. As you know, if you've been following me for a little while, you know I'm a pretty big fan of trend following. And the euro dollar is back to normal. This counter trend has, from what I can see here, has failed. And now it looks like we're back to, trend following state, right? Going back to the upside. So anyways, now to me, it's just looking for opportunities to try and get long. I love this area, of course. We came down and tested that briefly before jumping off of it on Friday. But if the price decides to come down or retest, maybe there's some opportunities to look to go long there in favor of that continuation. Fundamentally, still the same with the US dollar for me. I am bearish overall on it. I've talked about that almost every week, so keep an eye on that. If you haven't heard me talk about that, basically bearish on the US dollar fundamentally because of a lot of the printing of money going on here by the Fed, and a bigger picture thing being, we're in a recovery state. Markets are bullish right now. People are moving to more risk-on environments, meaning they're buying stocks. They're, all of those sort of things that happen in a growing and recovering economy are happening. And that tends to be a time where the US dollar is less favorable. You don't want to have cash. You want to be invested in other things. And that causes the US dollar, theoretically or fundamentally, to be bearish, in my view. So that's what I'm looking for this week on euro dollar. Let's move on to something else. We'll take a look at GBPUSD, close buy part here. If we take a look at, let's see, the euro dollar on the 4-hour chart. We've talked about this one and how, basically any sort of pullback would have been a good opportunity. And I said all that, and then I never ended up taking a trade, which is really sad because I missed it. I didn't really see price coming down into this area. And this is the 4-hour chart. So if we look at the daily really quick, we can see that, about the end of the week before and the start of last week, we did get this beautiful little pin bar sort of action, and then price shot off of the trend line here. Still bullish on the GBPUSD. You might say, oh, well, Nick, that's crazy. It seems like it's at the top of the trend. Why would you want to buy here? And the answer is I don't really want to buy here. I'd like to buy a sort of pullback because I think that there was and there still is probably some decent risk to reward trying to get in on the pullback of this trend. Now, like I said earlier, I'll be the first one to admit when I am wrong in a trade. That's why my stops are usually relatively tight and they are relatively small, so that if I'm wrong, I don't destroy my account, and if I'm right, I stand to gain a pretty good amount. So let me set up a theoretical trade for this week on GBPUSD should it come down to a level that I like, which is this previous top. Notice that price multiple times here failed to sort of break through this level, and when it did, it finally broke out and went strong. That right there shows me that this area is a pretty good chance that we could see some strong, now support. What was resistance could now become support in theory, right? That's the logic, is because traders who were trying to hold this very, very strongly, the buyers who were trying to get through it, they finally broke through it. And now if price comes down to it again, they're going to want to try and hold that level as kind of their territory now. That's at least the way I view it. So if price decides to come down, maybe there's some opportunities to look to get long. And it depends what sort of time frame trader you're at, because we're looking at the 4 hour. You could do something like this. This is a little bit more of the trade that I would kind of look for would be something like this, a stop out of about 75 pips and looking to gain something positive on the reward to risk ratio. Now, I like to trail stops, but if I were to put a target, I would be going for at least a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 on this move. And it depends if this is the top, right? If this is the top and we come down, then maybe I would be looking to target that or an extension off of that using Fibonacci extensions, something that we've talked about a few times on the channel, but not as much as other things. Fibonacci extensions are a very simple way to measure movements of a trend. So let's say that this move happened, and then we're anticipating that if this is the bottom, that same move right there will happen again. Right? Some people love that sort of concept. And what you can do is you can actually see that there it is. This is the same distance. Watch this for you guys. This is all it looks like magic to people who are not familiar with Fibonacci extensions. All this is basically it's measuring a distance for the extension. So if this area right here becomes the pullback zone that holds, watch where this ends up. Ta-da! Right at the 1.0 level, right? So it's just measuring the distance of where a trend could continue should it be very, very strong. So I like to use Fibonacci extensions just as a rough idea for pullbacks as where price could head. So if it were to go the full distance, the full 1 times that previous move, it's very possible that we could see a break through those highs. So that's why I like to trail stops, because I don't know exactly where the trend is going to end. I just like to ride it as much as possible. That's what we've got there on GBPUSD. Let's take a look at gold together, guys, and we'll see if we can figure anything out here. So I am short on gold, and I'm slightly in profit right now going into the last week. I shared a trade with members inside of the community. Let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. We can talk about it. And okay, so I'm currently short on gold. My initial thought was this. Last week I had a pretty slow week. We took profits on one trade on AUD Swiss, and then I took a short position on gold. Now, here was kind of the initial setup, right? I took a sell at resistance. Price broke underneath the 200 period moving average recently on gold, which we can take a look at in a second. And then, kind of just like the update is we were in this range and we broke to the downside, and I like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with this trade. So I guess we can start there, and then we can take a look at where we're at on the analysis side of things. You can see that, like I said, I got short around this area. I was a little bit early to the trade. We took a little heat on the trade, but it's all right because overall price did continue downwards and respected this trend line up here, which I used to place kind of where my stop was, which my stop was like up here. So more of a swing trade, but if price continues lower, I would love to see a price break to the downside here and down to the previous low, which I think is very, very possible next week, but it really depends what happens with the US dollar. Again, if price goes against me, I'll stop out, and that is what it is. But I've got a decent trade set up so far. My entry was not the perfect timing by any means, but overall it's all right because things are looking okay right now, and we'll see how it goes into the week. So my thought is, if price decides to go bearish, I think we're probably going to head down to the bottom of this range this week if we continue this little downtrend. And like I said, on the daily chart, we can go here, and you can see we are actually underneath the 200. And this week we made a notable tag of the 200 period moving average. In fact, if my entry was perfect, I probably would have shorted at the 200 period just on the retest, but of course that is hindsight, and hindsight doesn't really get us so far in real time. It only makes our historical trading accounts or theoretical hindsight trading accounts millionaires, right? In reality, we have to trade in real time where we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We have to just make predictions, or at least make decisions based on probabilities and what we see occurring in the markets. Anyways, so that's my thought on gold. I'm still short biased there until, if price decides to do something weird and just shoot up and break through that 200, then by all means, I am happy to look for more bullish setups on gold. But I am just trading the direction of what I see right now, not what I want to see. And you guys who have watched the channel know I'm a fan of like owning gold as sort of an investment. So it's not like I want gold to go lower. It's just that I'm trading the way my strategy calls for me to trade. So I'm looking for short setups. Anyways, if you guys have not already liked the video, thank you so much for being here and watching some of my analysis this week. I'm going to do one more pair, but if you would, make sure to like the video down below. And what that does is it tells me that people want to see more of these, and I'll continue to do them as long as people are enjoying them and showing so in that like button counter, because I use the like button to decide kind of what I should do more of on my channel. Let's see. Can we take a look at a weird one? We'll look at a different one than usual, USD CAD. So USD CAD, I talked about this on stream last week. By the way, I'm doing streams at 9 a.m. US Eastern. You can join me live to do more analysis, and I use that as my time to kind of look for trade setups as well as just interact with you guys. But we talked about this range, how price was kind of hugging the bottom here and then also rejecting the top. We're in an overall downtrend, so my favorite setup for USD CAD, even looking into this week, would be if the Canadian dollar gets strong, because whenever we're talking about currency pairs, we're talking about what they would do relative to one another. If the US dollar goes down relative to the CAD, right? If we have a strong week for the Canadian dollar, we'd have to check for news or whatever if there's anything big coming out for the Canadian currency or Canadian economy. But looking for a break through these lows, to me, if we can knock out some of those lows, looking for a retest of this zone is like a beautiful cookie cutter trend following setup for me. So that's what I'm looking for on USD CAD. Hopefully that makes sense. We're underneath that 200-day moving average. And again, that's going to be something where I would break it down to the lower time frames to look for a sort of entry. But the overall concept is just looking for momentum to break through this. And if that happens, I'm looking to go short and go with the trend. Like I said, guys, there's lots of free stuff in the description. You can join our newsletter where we share stuff. There's also a Telegram channel where you can follow along with some of the analysis being shared by some of our traders that work at A1 Trading. And if you are not already, if you liked seeing my trades, there's more of this inside of our A1 Trading community. You can see my trades as well as some of our other traders. We have Frank and Patrick. There's chat rooms and trade ideas being shared and not free webinars, but webinars for our premium group. We do free webinars occasionally. You can find out information on that in the description. You can get those in the email newsletter. And then there's also an educational portal and all sorts of good stuff. So if any of that sounds helpful to you, then you can check out the link down below. There is a promo code for you to get, I think it's $5 off to join our community, and one of our staff members will help you get into the group. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great trading week. Happy trading, and we'll see you back next time.